Rothman. I am one of two principals and chief distribution officer for Succession Capital. Our firm is a national firm, and for 28 years, we have sold very large amounts of life insurance to wealthy clients. So essentially, we're a partner with financial advisors, CPAs, attorneys, when they have wealthy clients who are facing issues transferring that wealth to the next generation. They need to buy a large amount of life insurance. And we have tools, strategies to do that as efficiently as possible. And that's our level and area of expertise. Really helping hone our messaging and our presentations for maximum effect. I think what we're communicating to people is very complex. And we are big believers in that what makes someone successful in this space, as an example, is if you can take the complex and make it simple, it really resonates with people. And so the more complex what you're trying to share is, I think the more simple you need to make it. And so with that being said, when we hired Teresa and in the time that we worked with her, the goal and objective was how can we simplify these complex ideas in ways that people can understand? And she would use terminology like, would you say this with a cup of coffee? Like, yeah, and that's really helpful because that's how people actually make decisions. And a lot of times we try to prove how smart we are, and that doesn't really get us very far. So she's done a great job helping us understand how to connect and explain things in a way that actually connects and actually gets people to understand what you're saying rather than impress them how smart you are. I think the biggest one that I can simplify is that what audience are you speaking to and what is going to get their attention? And really focus on their listening rather than your presenting. So in our world, for example, we would start with a lot of background on who we were and why we were such a great company and why they should sort of work with us. But what I realized, and she helped me understand, was that they don't really care about who you are. They don't really care about why they should work with you. They care about what they care about, and you're not necessarily speaking to that for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and you're going to lose them. So we sort of changed our approach to focus on them and sitting in their shoes right out the gate before we talked about anything about our firm in particular. And so the slides and the content that we created to start the meeting changed dramatically to here's where we're going to change your business, and here's what the opportunity is for you. Get them excited about that before we said anything about what we do or who we are. The thing is the call to action at the end. We've always been told that, right? You got to end, but so often like we just don't hit the mark on that. And so I feel like spending the time to think about like, what do you want to leave them with? What's their specific call to action to get them to move forward on the next step? I definitely think that was an area that got improved for me as well. Well, we really, it's interesting. I think the biggest thing is the level of referrals we were getting as far as the size of clients leveled up in an interesting way. We met with more billionaires, more, 500 million plus clients after this than we ever did before. So I think that was one of the biggest differences. And then the second thing is we got clients to move more quickly than we ever had before by getting to the point more efficiently. And so I started to actually think about in every way, like, how am I going to get this person to understand what I'm talking about? And it's interesting because I actually just hung up with a very large client right before this. And the way I presented that, I wouldn't have done it the same way without her help, even though it wasn't like an actual presentation necessarily that we created together, just the idea of it. And what I realized as you start to get to that point quicker, you realize people don't actually understand a lot of things that you assume that they do. And so by simplifying it, you realize, okay, I thought they would have understood this, but they didn't. And them understanding that, the light bulb went off in ways it never would have. So it's allowed us to get much bigger clients and clients at that level to move more quickly because we get them to understand what they're facing in a way that nobody's ever been able to get them to understand. I know. Well, somehow you think when someone is so wealthy and they've heard so much, they don't really know, and they're just like anybody else. They know what they know, but they don't understand things, or they don't want to act. They don't want to be honest about maybe what they don't understand. Mm-hmm. And so by simplifying it, all of a sudden you can explain things in a way that the light bulb goes off. Whereas if you get too complicated, they'll nod their head and in their mind, they have no idea what this person's talking about. And that's what Teresa's real, I guess, at the core, what she's trying to do is how do you connect to people? How do you get them to understand and come from their point of view? And the more you can integrate that into all areas of what you're doing, I think you become much more successful. Uh, I feel like she listened to what I was saying. I didn't feel like she was trying to give me a kind of canned response. She was really trying to understand what it was that I was trying to communicate. And the best way I can say it, similar to what I was sharing with I've learned from her, is she didn't say much, but what she said was really impactful. She would on each call maybe say two or three things that were just like, whoa, those are great points. So she didn't say a lot, but she said a lot in the very small amount that she said. Absolutely. I mean, I've done a lot of things like similar, and the amount of investment is actually, to me, very minimal for the impact that you're able to get. So absolutely, I think from a cost benefit, it's very, very beneficial compared to the cost. Yeah, I mean, there's a self-reflection that you go through with her, and she does it in a way that doesn't feel like, everything you have is terrible. But it's good to now be able to look at the things that you're doing and say, okay, well, how could I constantly look at, like, how can I communicate better? And just that exercise is what, to me, is like the gift that if you keep doing that, you just keep refining. Since I've even worked on this with her, just every week I'm refining things because that mindset is kind of the key. From that perspective, it's kind of like a lifetime change in that it's a different way to look at things. I actually don't think I could have, and you're talking about a massive deal. I don't think I could have communicated the complex. And this is a client we've had for a long time. We're trying to get them to move to this next huge level in what they're doing. And we've kind of struggled to get it across. And I actually got a call from the advisor we're working with on it. He goes, that was the best meeting I've ever heard in my life. Like, and I think it's because I started off with that simple, like, here's what we're dealing with before I got into it. And I actually created all these numbers that we never even got to because it was the concept that they needed to understand, not the numbers. And so that to me is the gift of Teresa, is like, can you communicate what the problem is? She gave me this amazing idea of, like, start with the problem and then work your way down the pyramid. And until the client understands the problem that they're facing, like, you're spinning your wheels if you try to move on. And so that's what I started with, and that's what opened up everything. Efficient communication and in sales, which we're all, most of us are in some way or another. Even if you're not technically in sales, we're all selling in something. It's the more efficient you can be in your communication is how you level up. All of us in any walk of life, I think most people that are successful are in sales, like I said, in some way or another. They have to influence people or get people to act in a particular way. That's our craft. And just like any other like an athlete's going to have trainers and coaches. And I think we all have to treat that seriously. And someone like Teresa is a mentor coach in that arena that can hone that craft in a way that's gonna impact you and separate you. And so, to me, investing in that is just such a smart thing to do. And a lot of people do, but she does something very specific, and it's like a subset niche of this kind of growth industry or transformation or self reflection. And what she adds is incredibly valuable.